you said you did not expect, and you are not referring only to yourself, but I think you are referring to everybody. You said you did not expect this letter, and you said it twice now.
Yes.
And you have said it twice already before. I think the first time you mentioned it, you said, we all did not expect the disbandment. And then you said it again later. You've said it 4 times.
That's correct.
I find it rather odd that you say you were not surprised and that General Masemula should not have been surprised when all of you say 4 times, did not expect this. I'm just making that observation and to have it on record. You may continue with you, but if you want to comment, General, you may.
I really wish I want to comment, Chair, and it is with respect as well, I'm not challenging the Chair. When I say General Masemola cannot say he was also shocked or surprised, I'm just banking on the fact that it was not the first time we all saw a letter was just drafted, having not had any discussion prior at all.
But you don't expect it, and I would think you must be surprised when you see it, when you did not expect it. That's the point I'm making.
If the chair calls me one day into a meeting and say, General, I'm concerned about 1, 2, 3, 4 that is happening, and I think we really need to re-look into this situation and that, and then go think about it, but we need to reconsider this or to review this, look into that one. Then I indicate and say, no, but I don't think it will make any problem, there's any problem in this regard.
You see, there wasn't, okay, continue.
Then I say, I don't see any problem, I think it can be done. Then it all goes quiet. It's festive season now, we're all over the country doing festive season. Later in the year, in the end of the year, the 31st, I see a letter coming through. It will come as a shock, but not surprised, because I know about it. It was once raised. And then my job will be to then call the chair and say, Chair, I see this letter, and I'm surprised or I'm shocked that
you see, you can't avoid saying you are shocked, you are surprised. You can't avoid saying that.
I'm saying
because that's actually what should ordinarily happen in those circumstances. You yourself cannot avoid being shocked or surprised, General.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
No, my advocate warned me and say, don't go for the second time with the Chair. Just remain. Once you see he raises something, don't repeat it. So I'm taking a short left now.
Thank you, General. Yes, Ms. Asim.
Thank you, Chair. So, that's not unrelated to this letter that we're looking at. And maybe I should cut through, actually. This is your letter. It requires communication with the stakeholders. It requires the summary of the reasons for the decision to disband. It requires an analysis of the task team's effectiveness and impact on crime reduction, an account of controversies, a cost-benefit analysis, all of these things. All of the contents, these guidelines that you send to General Khumalo and say, prepare a closing report. All of this points to a report that's trying to justify the decision. Do you agree? All of these items that I've just read out, and you can look at it more closely if you wish to.
May I ask to please repeat the question?
So the guidelines, all of these guidelines that you're talking about, you're saying these are guidelines, and I refer you to some examples. One would be in 4.1, the summary of key considerations that resulted in the decision to disband the task team. 4.3, the bullets under operational review of the task team and its effectiveness. 4.4, controversies, any controversies and issues that arose during the task team's operation. 4.5, input from key stakeholders. 4.6, cost-benefit analysis of the task team's operations. 7, legal and compliance review, summary of any legal challenges, compliance or governance issues encountered. 4.7, data and security management. All of this, these that I've read out, are guidelines for a document that is intended to justify the decision.
No. No.
This is not about okay, explain your no before I go to the next question.
It is not an attempt to justify, because remember, this document was not crafted by the minister or myself. The bottom line here is that as much as I am the signatory of this document, it went past the eyes of the National Commissioner. We cannot really take out the National Commissioner from this letter because it was discussed with him. Even before it got sent to me, it went past his hands. He saw it. It came to me. I own the document because at the ultimate end I had to sign it. But if this document came from General Ravi straight to me, I would take absolute full responsibility. But if it went via the Office of the National Commissioner, brought to my office by a general working with General Masemola to me, we are both in this thing together. So all I'm saying, Chair, is that I accept the responsibility for drafting this letter, but because of the fact that my commander, my boss, saw it and was satisfied with it. If he saw it and he didn't agree with it, General Sibiya was wrong to bring it to my office.
Can I test my observation with you, General? Looking at this document, here is my observation. What it contains is guidelines that are usually followed when you close down a task team or a unit. And in the normal course, all of these things would have happened before the decision is taken, correct?
That is correct.
So that when you then prepare this report and you give them 2 days to submit it, they already have in their possession feedback from the NPA, feedback from the other stakeholders. They already have a breakdown of resources. They already have summary of legal challenges. But if you produce a document like this after the decision is taken, it doesn't make sense because you're saying to them within 2 days, go to NPA and get NPA's feedback, go to State Security Agency and get their feedback and response. And that's impossible to do it in 2 days.
Before you answer, just to the tail end of that is, the question was, I had asked about the NPA and the SSA, and I said specifically in the context of this task team, because they were part owners of the task team. They had a very serious role to play. They were members of the task team, the SSA and the NPA. So consultation would have been before the decision.
It was a multidisciplinary task team. It was not just the police. It was other disciplines, including NPA, including State Security Agency, including other role players. So the simple observation I make is that in the normal course, how you shut down a task team or a unit, you would have done these things in advance so that when you ask for a closeout report, it can be produced because you have all these things in the normal course.
In the normal course, it is what ought to have happened. Firstly, I want to raise this issue. The fact that I signed it on the 17th, I said I'm raising my hands that I made it was a mistake. It was the date, maybe, I don't know how it happened.
General, stop there. I even gave you a benefit of a doubt and say maybe you were expecting a response by the 20th.
Yes.
Because remember, a report was...
Yes.
So, assuming that 16th is a typo, you were really expecting all these things by the 20th. So you sign it on the 17th. When would anybody get input from NPA, input from SSA, input from all in a space of 3 days? That's impossible. So hence I say what this document shows, to me at least, not to my co-commissioners, is that you've taken a guideline that is normally used to shut down units and task teams. And you've tried to apply it to a situation where the minister surprised all of you by shutting down a task team without your knowledge. And you're now really trying to do a closeout report after the minister has made a decision.
I accept that, commissioners, and then I want to say that if we all are to accept that this was a guideline, and that was sent to, let's say, General Kumalo, who's the project coordinator. Under normal circumstances, what General Kumalo ought to have done was to look at it and say, it looked like there's a mammoth task here. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done that may take actually 30 days or 2 months. And this is my schedule in complying with the minister's instruction, considering the fact that I think it was a preliminary report or the closer report. It was not the final, because the final report was going to be submitted at a much later close-up report. Even when I spoke to General Kumalo, he did raise these issues. He said to me, General, there are a lot of people that are involved here that must be consulted, and everyone else, and having consulted with everybody, and then the report will include all the information, including the documents that are at court and everything. So it wasn't expected that this thing will close like tomorrow or just by the 20th it will be closed. It wasn't expected like that. But it kick-started the discussions to say that this thing is now closing. So for General Kumalo, all he was supposed to do was to just go and sit down and craft a response that suits what he needs to achieve and how he's going to achieve it, and then present it before the minister or to me, and then I go to the National Commissioner again and say, NASCOM, I received this from General Kumalo, and this is how he sees this thing working. And then if we were to then thereafter say to him, no, we say it close by tomorrow, then we would have overstepped the mark. But if it was given to him, and then he didn't see it fit that he should respond. Instead, they did comply and wrote a report. Although I was not favored with the copy, it just went to the minister. So the same thing they did.
No, General, can I pause you there for a moment? Because it's a long answer. I was trying to allow you to finish, but it's taking too long because you're really not answering the question. And from my side, it's not, you're talking about what General Kumalo should have done. My question on this letter comes from an interest of what you should do and what is reasonable conduct by you. Why did you think sending this letter with all of these requirements or guidelines, as you put it, why do you think it was reasonable to request that? It's not an answer to say, well, General Kumalo should have come to me and told me this is not reasonable, it can't be done. I'm asking, why did you issue it in the first place? Why did you think it was reasonable?
You see, Chair, when you work in the OD, organizational development, or you have done work study, and then you learn how to write a report writing, and they give you to say when you write a report, firstly you start with the background, and then the introduction, the background, factors that lead to the investigation, then you come to points that you need to raise, like when you do a thesis or whatever that you write, there's a format. Now, as General Rabi, you say, all right, I'm writing this document, I'm expected to guide the organization in coming up with a closing up report. I suggest that here are the guidelines. Work within these guidelines. Now, these guidelines that I'm sending to where they belong. Now, the person who must then respond is the one who must now begin now the action steps. And how you begin the action steps is that you will say, you can even write back and say, all right, I've received the guidelines, and then this is my program on how to implement these guidelines that you have sent. Then you bring all those guidelines. And as you bring all those guidelines, I will take the same guidelines and they will go back to the minister and say, Minister, this thing is not as easy as you think. There is more work that needs to be done, and the following will be done. So that is why I take it that we all had a responsibility to bring our side. In my case, it was sent to me to sign, I sent. But from the side of General Khumalo, supposed to acknowledge, look at it and say, right, I've gone through this letter, this one is possible, this one is possible, this one is possible, this one will need so much time to do, to achieve, this cannot be done, and this is how I also suggest it must be done. Let's say even the winding down. Then you will write the same letter and say, I suggest that it must be done in phases. Now, you are openly responding to this letter, because it's an official letter that comes from the Office of the National Commissioner to me to send to General Khumalo. So I'm still believing that it could have been handled that way.
Except General, at paragraph 3.2, you give an instruction that has immediate effect. You say, effective immediately, all investigative personnel must report, are directly accountable to the Divisional Commissioner for Detective and Forensic Services until they are reassigned to alternative units. So even if the rest of it you say it's a guideline, and I can see why, in parts, why you would say that, but that's not all there is in this letter. You give a direction that is effective immediately, that must be implemented. You're changing the reporting structure, effective immediately. That to me doesn't seem like a matter that's open for debate. It's the same as the minister's letter, which says immediately disbands. It doesn't allow for a back and forth with the minister. The same as that your accountability, paragraph 3.2.
If the chair remembers very well, or commissioners remembers very well, there was at some point a newspaper article that says the minister sent them packing, where, for an example, there was a meeting held, and then in that meeting, that what was expected in terms of giving feedback on the progress in terms of the complying with the instruction was discussed, and only to find that not much was done or nothing happened. And the minister expressed his dissatisfaction around that issue. And then when he expressed his dissatisfaction around that issue, now, the small boy there is me. It is the minister, is the national commissioner. Both of them, CI and DIVCOM, reports to me. I am the one who accounts when we are sitting in that space. When we are sitting in that space, where is the minister, the national commissioner, the two DIVCOMs, and myself? I am the one now accountable who must respond. Now, in my case, when I realize that now it looked like I'm now the one failing, because the national commissioner is quiet in the meeting. It's not objecting to anything. It's not disagreeing with anything. Now, I'm sitting here being told that, but you guys don't listen. This is what was needed, and I'm not being taken serious. Now, it looked like I am the one not taking the minister serious or the national commissioner serious, because even the national commissioner was not really objecting to anything. So, where I begin to also strengthen my hand to say, let this happen, let this happen, let this happen, is to try now to be hands-on and say, let's move, let's not
But
delay.
no, General. We know that this letter was sent to General Kumalo before that meeting with the minister that you're describing. We know that. It's the first thing that comes out of your desk. Yes, assisted by General Rabi. But your first act, and you say in your statement that from I think General or Lieutenant Letoko, you received this 31 December letter, and with an instruction to prepare a closeout report. You say all of that. And then this is what you prepared with the assistance of General Rabi. And what I'm pointing out to you is that which you prepared, your first act on this in 3.2 was to order with immediate effect a different accounting line. You say PKTT with immediate effect is now accountable to Divisional Commissioner for Forensic Services until they are reassigned to alternative units.
Just going through the letter.
Okay.
May I respond?
Yes.
Yes. In an attempt to make sure that we don't lose track or anything falling in between the cracks, you end up having to tie this thing to somebody. To say that now that we are in the process of disbandment, and we are saying, if we are saying effective immediately in terms of the disbandment, now we are talking about the issues of the case docket now having to report to go to murder and robbery unit. So that is why in my case I came up with that, this effective immediately was just to comply with the instruction of the National Commissioner, and then was to say effective immediately, and then the person who will now be in charge of the workload, it will be the DIFCOM detective services. And those that of intelligence will continue doing their part, reporting to where they belong.
Thank you. Ms. Hassan?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to, you haven't answered the question why you thought it was reasonable. You gave a very long response, but you didn't say why you thought this was a reasonable request to issue this letter with all of these guidelines. And it's not just that it's lengthy, and it's not just that it will take time, but it's that what's being requested is to provide the reasons for a decision from someone who did not make the decision. So I'd like your response on that, because I'm saying to you that's not a reasonable request.
I thought, commissioners, how I responded was that this was a guideline. This was a guideline. And it being a guideline, it needed to be treated as a guideline. Where Commissioner Kumalo, General Kumalo, had a different approach or response to it, or different opinion, he would have also responded as such, in such a way that he also brings his side of the story.
So he could have come back to you to say, this is just not possible to be done, and you, when you sent it, you expected that that would be the kind of,
yes,
that was your
he has
expectation.
done it before.
It doesn't make sense because it doesn't tally up with what Commissioner Beloy was putting to you about you requesting immediate action on this. Nor does it tally up with the requirement in the minister's letter that a closing report must be provided by 20 January, which was 3 days after you sent this letter. You can comment on that if you wish.
Chair, my mind was still locked into a previous discussion when she was talking. And then when she was talking and said it doesn't make sense on this, and then I'm thinking on certain things. Now she says your comment on that.
Please repeat the question.
I apologize.
No problem, General, no problem.
What I was saying to you, General, is that your last response to me, which is that they're just guidelines, you didn't really expect that it would be done in 3 days. In other words, that was your response to my question, surely this is not reasonable. You said, well, you know, you didn't expect. He could have come back and said it's not going to get done. And I'm saying that doesn't make sense in the light of the contents of this letter, which require immediate action, or in the context of the letter from the minister, which required a closing report on the 20th of January, 3 days after you sent this letter. So that's what I'm saying to you. That's the comment I'm making. That's the observation I'm making about your response to me about reasonableness. And I'm saying to you, do you wish to comment on that?
Yes, I wish to comment. In our world as police officials, it would make sense and it would be easy to comply with. In your world, maybe from where you are coming from, it's something that may need to take 6 months, but in our world, if I give an instruction, it can be done in 3 days. It can be done in a week. It can be done in 2 weeks. So, as far as I'm concerned, there has been instances where they say, this must happen by tomorrow 8 o'clock, and it happens. And the rest will follow. This is how it works in the police, maybe even in the defense. But it does not necessarily create a situation where we can say it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so you're saying it's reasonable within the police service. This is how SAPS works. It's reasonable within the SAPS to send a request to a person for reasons for a decision that that person never took. Because that's what this is. It's saying, give us the reasons. It's a whole report that justifies everything up until 4.8 of this letter, the bulk of this letter, 4 pages, is a report that is written in order to explain a decision. And you saying it's reasonable in the SAPS to ask the person who didn't make the decision to write that report.
All I'm saying is that it is doable in the police. And to consult with stakeholders, and we're talking SSA and NPA, it takes one telephone call or one email that says, there needs to be this meeting. Go meet each and every prosecutor on the ground. What happens is that from General Masemola, the National Commissioner, as it was his responsibility task there, he was just going to meet, let's say, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, or send me to go meet the DPP, or send the Provincial Commissioner to say, go meet your counterpart, the DPP there, and discuss this matter of the National Commissioner. Now that can be done to say what are the dynamics, what are the challenges, so that whatever that is being raised, then it gets put in writing, then there's a response back or feedback to the National Commissioner, to the Minister. So all I'm saying is that It is doable, it is possible. It is not a question of it could not be done. It's just a question of really there's not really that much of a crisis. Disbanding this task team is a small task team, by the way. It could just easily be done easily. And confirming with the stakeholders, to get a meeting of the stakeholders is easy. There are instances like where, for instance, you have to get for forensic establishment of forensic, where to get public works, get the Department of Justice, get that one into a meeting.